So, right now, if you were to take out your smartphone, it can use its camera to identify a red flower. Right?
Oh, yeah, easily.
Yeah, it can put a little digital bounding box around it, tag it with perfect accuracy, and your brain does the exact same physical processing when you look at a garden. But the thing is, why is it that you can feel the warmth and the beauty of the color red, but your phone just feels absolutely nothing?
Right.
So today on this deep dive, we are heading straight into basically the ultimate scientific and philosophical black hole. We're taking on a really massive stack of research focused on one deceptively simple question, which is, what is consciousness?
Simple question, but yeah, impossible to answer.
Exactly. I mean, we were talking about a puzzle that sits at this jagged intersection of neuroscience, philosophy, psychology, and, fundamentally our entire understanding of reality.
It really is the ultimate mystery. I mean, it's the water we swim in every single day, yet we have almost no idea what it actually is or how it gets made. We're so utterly used to just being that we rarely stop to ask how being is even physically possible in a universe made of atoms.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our research gives us a foundational starting point by defining consciousness, really simply, as the capacity to have an experience.
Right.
And to put that into perspective for everyone listening right now, you're not just a machine processing audio data at this exact second. You are experiencing this moment.
Yes.
You're hearing the cadence of my voice. You're feeling the texture of whatever chair you're sitting in, or maybe noticing the temperature of the air on your skin.
We're thinking about what you're going to have for lunch.
Right, exactly. You might be having these secondary wandering thoughts about dinner, or remembering some weird dream you had last night. You are actively experiencing yourself as you.
And what's fascinating here is that crucial distinction between processing and experiencing. Because we live in an era that is totally saturated with machines that process just staggering amounts of information, but without a single spark of inner life. I mean, the central mystery of human biology is that subjective quality. All of this sensory input, the seeing, the hearing, the feeling.
Right.
It somehow collates into a unified, continuous sensation of me-ness. There is a witness inside your skull that's watching the show.
It's wild to think about, mostly because we just take it completely for granted. I mean, to really grasp how strange this phenomenon is, let's strip it down to a simple, everyday occurrence to prove that we aren't just processing data.
Okay.
Let's talk about the red flower. If you're listening right now, just look at whatever object is closest to you, a coffee cup, a steering wheel, a desk, whatever. The physical process of you seeing that object is incredibly well documented.
Oh, yeah. The mechanics are entirely mapped out. Light bounces off the petals of that red flower or that coffee cup. That light travels through the air. It enters your pupil, and it strikes the retina at the back of your eye.
Right, the retina.
Yeah, and your retina acts as a transducer, basically transforming those physical photons into electrical and chemical signals. Then your nervous system acts like a series of high-speed biological cables.
Just carrying those signals rapidly up into the visual cortex of your brain.
Exactly. Finally, your brain processes that data, and it identifies the object.
So that is the biological pipeline, right? Photons to electrical signals to object recognition. But here's where my brain starts to melt a little bit.
Yeah.
Going back to that smartphone analogy, if I point my camera at that exact same flower, the lens takes in the light. The image sensor converts those photons into electrical signals. The processor runs it through an algorithm, and the software successfully identifies it.
It's the same thing.
Right. The phone is performing the exact same sequence of data processing tasks as the human eye and brain.
The pipeline is virtually identical in its functional architecture. Input, translation, processing, output.
But a smartphone doesn't experience red. It doesn't look at the flower and feel a sense of beauty or warmth or, nostalgia for a garden it saw once.
No, it just registers the data points.
Exactly. So why aren't we just biological smartphones? If our brains are literally just running electrical and chemical signals through biological wires, why does our processing feel like something? Why isn't the brain simply crunching numbers in the dark?
Well, that is the million-dollar question driving all of this research, because you don't merely process the electromagnetic wavelength of the color red. You experience the redness of red.
The redness of red. I like that.
Yeah, that vivid, undeniable, subjective sensation of it. It is the difference between reading the sheet music and actually hearing the symphony play in a grand concert hall.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, because the sheet music contains all the objective data, the notes, the timing, the volume. A computer can read that sheet music flawlessly and output the data, but the computer isn't moved to tears by the melody.
Yeah, it lacks an internal subjective theater where the music is actually felt.
Pers-
But experiencing that internal theater isn't just one flat sensation, is it? I mean, if we look closely at the architecture of our minds, the research highlights that this experience happens in these distinct compounding stages.
Yes.
And the visual of a tree is a really helpful way to ground this for everyone.
Yeah, the tree example clarifies the architecture beautifully. We can break this down into 3 distinct layers. So layer 1 is simply basic awareness.
Okay.
This is just environmental detection. It's the state of being able to say, I can see the tree, you aren't bumping into it. Your optical sensors are actively logging its physical presence in your path.
Which is something we already program machines to do. I mean, a self-driving car has sensors that basically say, in code, I can see the tree, I will apply the brakes so I do not drive into it.
Right, it's purely navigational awareness.
Okay, so what's the next layer?
Then we cross the threshold into layer 2, which is experience. You don't just detect the tree as an obstacle to avoid, you have a rich, subjective experience of witnessing it.
Like you might notice how the vibrant green leaves contrast against the gray, overcast sky, or feel a sense of calm looking at the branches swaying in the wind.
Exactly. The data has been painted with qualitative feeling.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. Layer 3. The research calls this self-awareness. It is a bizarre kind of meta-awareness.
Yeah, it is.
It's not just seeing the tree, and it's not just feeling the beauty of the tree. It's the realization, I am looking at the tree, and I know that I'm looking at it.
It's the loop folding back on itself. Consciousness becoming acutely aware of its own consciousness.
And if I know that I'm looking at the tree, it forces us to ask one of the deepest questions possible. Who is the I that is experiencing this?
Right.
Who is the central character sitting in the dark theater of my skull watching the movie of my life?
And isolating that 3rd layer, that recursive loop of self-awareness, is what turns a highly complex biological process into a profound, wall-hitting philosophical puzzle.
Because we can point directly to the visual cortex for the processing of the tree's image, right?
Yeah. And we can even point to the amygdala or other specific regions for the emotional, calming reaction to the tree. But where do we point for the eye?
Right. Where is that located?
Exactly. Where in the 3 pounds of wet tissue inside your skull does the subjective witness actually live?
Which brings us right to the biology of it all.
Yeah.
Because if this rich inner world exists, the intuitive answer is that the brain is generating it. And the science shows incredibly strong evidence that consciousness is deeply, fundamentally entangled with physical brain activity.
Oh, the correlation is undeniable. Physical changes to the brain drastically alter the mind.
In what kinds of ways?
Well, whether through blunt trauma, neurochemistry, degenerative disease, or targeted surgery, altering the physical substrate alters the experience.
Wow.
Yeah, if a specific lobe is damaged, a patient might completely lose the ability to recognize human faces, even their own. If a tumor presses on a certain region, a person's entire moral compass or personality can shift overnight.
That is wild.
It is. The brain and consciousness are locked in an incredibly tight dance.
I was thinking about this biological limit. And the best way I could visualize the scientific wall we hit, which researchers famously call the hard problem, is by comparing reading brain scans to looking at a car's speedometer.
Oh, walk us through that visual.
So imagine you're monitoring a car speeding down the highway from the outside. You look through the window and see the speedometer needle is pointing exactly at 60 miles per hour.
Okay.
You can describe the mechanics of the internal combustion engine. You can measure the RPMs. You can correlate the pressure of the driver's foot on the gas pedal with the velocity of the vehicle.
So you possess a complete, flawless, physical description of the system in motion.
A perfect objective data set. But no matter how long you stare at that speedometer, it will never tell you what the road trip actually feels like for the people inside the cabin.
Right, it doesn't tell you about the wind whipping through the open windows or the specific song playing on the radio.
Exactly. Or the tense argument the passengers just had, or the anticipation of reaching the beach. It just says 60 miles per hour. And our advanced brain scans are ultimately just highly sophisticated speedometers.
That is such a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, we can describe billions of neurons firing. We can measure electrical spikes in different lobes. We can confidently say, when the subject looks at the red flower, This specific cluster of neurons lights up at this exact frequency.
But that data tells us absolutely nothing about what the inner journey feels like or why the journey exists in the first place.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you've just perfectly illustrated why mapping the brain is